Hey everyone, I just finished upgrading my Godot game Frog Finder from Godot 3 to Godot 4, and I hit a lot of little problems along the way, so I'm going to show you step by step everything I did to upgrade and all the problems I hit, because if you're planning to upgrade to Godot 4 soon, I bet you're going to hit these same problems as well. Here we go. So the first time you open up a Godot 3 project in Godot 4, it's going to prompt you to kick off this automatic upgrade process, and that's all right, go ahead and do that, but once you open up the project, it's also going to list all these broken dependencies, and you'll see none of your images in your game loaded right. That's okay, just go ahead and reload the current project, and it all sort of fixes itself, not sure why. But after that, I would strongly recommend you go ahead and commit everything that the tool did, because you're going to want to separate those automatic changes from the manual changes you're going to make next. So assuming you're using GDScript, a lot of the APIs have changed and little things about how export variables, so I'm going to go over that stuff. First off, if you had any Boolean statements that checked if arrays were empty, you used to be able to just say if array name or if not dictionary name, and now you have to explicitly say if array name is empty. So the array remove method is now called remove at. The string erase method is gone entirely. There is a proposal to bring it back because it's kind of an important one, but in the meantime, you can just use this little utility method and just copy it into your project. And lastly, if you had any export variables that were using type hints, those are now redundant, so you can remove those. If you leave them in, they'll actually cause compilation errors. So with that, hopefully all your scripts are compiling, but if you run your game, it's still going to crash and stuff. First off, if you had any yield statements in Godot 3, those have been changed to await statements, but the idle frame property doesn't exist anymore. So if you were yielding on that, you want to change idle frame to process frame. So the erase slice method is now exclusive instead of inclusive. You want to change the second parameter and bump it up by 1 in all your calls. Also, if you have any typed arrays with setters, you're going to get errors when you assign to them unless you append as array type to the end when you assign. This is a known issue, which hopefully they'll merge in a fix soon. So two sort of nasty things you used to be able to do in Godot 3. The first is you used to be able to assign an array constant into a variable and still manipulate that array in the variable, and that's a bad idea. You can't do that in Godot 4. Instead, what you want to do is create an empty array and then call the dot assign to populate it with the values from the constant, where you can still mutate the array. Also, you used to be able to have a field with a setter, and the setter wouldn't be called as long as you assign that field within the same script. That no longer works either, so if you're relying on that little kludge, you'll have to think of something better. So next you'll notice a lot of little bugs in your scene files. For example, any looping animations aren't going to loop anymore. You can go in and fix that yourself in the editor, but I think it's easier just to do mass search and replace and change loop equals true to loop mode equals 1 because the property just changed. Also, if you have any labels with their alignment set, that align property is now horizontal alignment. And that's just a drop-in replacement. You should search and replace for that as well. And also, if you had any Y-sort nodes, the upgrade process did replace those with vanilla Node 2Ds, but even though they have this Y-sort enabled checkbox, it's just not checked by default, so go ahead and fix that. So tweens changed massively in Godot 4. They used to be nodes, but now you're going to create them with this create tween method. They used to also default to tweening a bunch of stuff in parallel, but now they're actually going to tween one thing at a time unless you tell them explicitly, I need to tween a lot of stuff at once, do it in parallel. There's no signals on them anymore, but there's tween callbacks, which basically work the same way. You used to be able to avoid tweening the same property multiple times by checking things like, is this property currently being tweened? But that's not a thing anymore. Instead, you'll be creating these multiple tweens. You'll want to collect them in some sort of a data structure so you can answer that question for yourself. Here I used a dictionary from songs to the tweens that are currently active on that song so I can make sure I'm not adjusting the same song's volume multiple times. You'll have to do something clumsy like that yourself. So lastly, you'll probably notice a few little code warnings that might get on your nerves. If you had any warning ignore comments, you'll want to replace those with the corresponding annotations. But also, if you had any code that was calling its own static method, that now produces a warning as well just because of a little bug. So you can add a warning ignore annotation there as well. So your project's window is probably going to resize in a weird way now. You'll want to go into the project settings and reset the stretch mode to canvas items instead of the default disabled. So if your project used any plugins, those got disabled by the automatic upgrade process. You want to go into the asset library, find new counterparts for those plugins and install those, and then just make sure they're enabled in your project settings. So by now, hopefully your game is running well in the Godot editor, but let's get it exported so other people can play it too. You might notice some of your export presets are missing. I had to recreate my HTML5 and iOS presets, but after I got my game exported, there was one last hurdle, which was it would crash right away with these cannot load dependency errors related to fonts and themes. The way I fixed this was to open up the theme in the Godot editor, remove the font, and then add the font and save the theme again. Now, themes are binary, so I have no idea what this changed, but it made the problem go away. I did have to do this for every single theme in my game. So that's all I had to do to upgrade Frog Finder. It now works on web targets, it works on Windows desktops and Linux. I didn't touch anything with mobile, I didn't do any 3D stuff, and it also doesn't use any of the C# features. So there's possibly some little gotchas there that I didn't hit on. But if you know anything like that and you want to let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. So I'm about to take this all on with my other game, TurboFat, and I bet I'm going to have all new problems, and maybe you'll save me some of the headaches that maybe I saved you. So, repay the favor, right? Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and take it easy.